Welcome, guys, to the Built to Last podcast. My name is Todd Robinson. I'm here with my co-host, Vehano Joseph. And this is our first episode of the Built to Last podcast. You know, this kind of we created this organically after seeing some properties together and realizing we've got some stuff to talk about that we think others will want to hear. And, you know, we called it Built to Last podcast because, you know, everything we do in life, we're trying to build something to last, you know, whether that's your family, your faith, your community, your business, your personal relationships, everything you do in life, the aim is to build something to last. So we hope this podcast will be a source of inspiration for those that listen, and we're excited to be together on this journey. So, Vehano, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how we got here?
Yeah, thank you, Todd. And listeners, so excited to share our stories with you and in the future bring on exciting guests that are just able to share their wonderful stories and just experience. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in, you know, you learn from others and you know, there's certain things you take from other people and you put that in your toolbox and it helps you grow and scale and achieve immense success. So, well, my background and my story is I'm originally from Cape Town, South Africa. I'm a chartered accountant by trade, or US equivalent to be a CPA, and I, you know, I always make this joke. I'm a recovering CPA. Spent my time in the public accounting arena and you know, did a bunch of busy seasons and you know, all of that for 7 years. And then I transitioned into management consulting, where I spent the majority of my time working on Fortune 50 companies in the M&A space, acquired in company acquisitions, divestitures, you know, or roll-ups, all different types of strategies, and then also just process improvement, enhancement, and that kind of stuff into real estate after spending a very brief amount of time working in the corporate accounting environment, and learned very quickly that you know, large bureaucratic companies you know, wasn't my style, and it's not where I wanted to spend my time. And so, yeah, we started doing real estate, and that's how I met Todd, and we've been, you know, friends and partners ever since, going on 7 years. Yeah, we've done transactions from Florida to Texas to Nashville to Georgia, right? So it's been awesome. And you know, I think to echo what Todd said in the intro, we want to bring value to you guys with not just real estate, not just you know, the things that we're doing in our day to day, but we want to bring the whole picture to everybody. I think we all get so encaptured into this whole idea that, you know, this person's this specialization, right? Like, this multi-million-dollar guy, but there's so many facets to that success and so many things you have to work on, right? So family,
100%.
religion, there's like, you know, and we want to share our knowledge and help you have those skills.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's the full picture. You know, if one part of your life is lacking, then, you know, something else is gonna falter. Yeah. And you know, yeah, and like Vehano said, I mean, we're an interesting team here because I'm a lawyer by trade. I mean, I'm a real estate finance and investment lawyer that specializes really in syndication work, corporate and securities work, and real estate investing and finance. And I've got my own law firm here in Atlanta, Georgia, that I built from a laptop in my basement 5 years ago to, you know, over 25 employees and upwards of nearly $10 million in revenue. So, you know, that's
amazing.
And again, even starting that process, I had the intention of building something to last and really wanted to leave a legacy for my family and for, you know, the legal community and use those connections to build, you know, in other areas. And after meeting Vehano and really getting into real estate myself, I've also developed a, you know, portfolio of over $75 million of assets, and now, you know, are teaching others how to build and scale their real estate portfolios using other people's money. But, you know, I'll kind of start off on a little bit of a tangent. I mean, my story is interesting because in 2018, I was fired from my job. I was fired from the law firm I worked at before starting my own firm. And it was nightmarish, to say the least. I mean, I had a brand new baby, had a mortgage. I was kind of on the upswing in life. I had just gotten into a job that was paying me a lot more than I had been making previously at a different law firm. Kind of made it into the big leagues, as I thought, and I was fired for being considered this rogue employee. I was one of the lawyers that was actually good at developing business and bringing in clients. And when you do that in law firms, it ends up kind of biting you in the butt sometimes, because you have to prioritize whether you're working on your own files that you bring in or the files of your partners. And so my success story as it stands now, by the grace of God, really started with this really devastating defeat. And how do you, and I'm sure, Vehano, you've seen that in your life and your career, I mean, overcoming that adversity. I mean, I could have just rolled up and gotten a corporate job and just really continued my 9 to 5. But, what I did is that night I got fired. The next day I started my own LLC. I reached out to all my existing clients. I said, guys, nothing's changing here except, my email address, but I'm still the same lawyer. I'm still you're still my client, and let's just do this over here. And I, brought in over $1 million that first year from a laptop in my basement. But I had that, Vehano and I like to call it that fire in the belly. What is it that that is within certain people that really pushes them to succeed and pushes them to drive to succeed? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think I had a question on that instance, that you felt, did you feel like you were betrayed in that moment when you were trying to bring in business for the firm? Like, was it a case or was it a case of, hey, I'm trying to, expand my book of business, and utilize the skills that you were given as a young attorney, which is business development and meeting people and networking, which is so critical in any aspect of life. So curious to hear what how that whole transition, or how they saw that, I guess, the old guard was not happy with the new ways or the new things you were doing.
Yeah, it wasn't so much of a betrayal. It was, and now it's funny, as the managing partner of my firm, having younger associates under me, trying to mentor them into developing business, I get where my other boss was going. And he, I think, had the wrong attitude. It was all about him and not really seeing the value of bringing in, other clients. So he felt threatened, I think, is what, his issue was. I mean, he felt threatened, and he was just kind of, he has this, he has a reputation, I think, in the legal community of being like that. But it definitely felt unfair, for sure. And it felt like, maybe I was betrayed by my boss, right? Like, you're firing me because I'm doing work for the firm. So that was hard, but, and I had offers to go work at other firms, and I always wanted to have my own firm. And I knew, even as entrepreneurs, we have to plant those seeds of relationships in all of our, everywhere we go, because you never know where the next deal is going to come from, where the next investor is going to come from. So I was constantly planting those seeds, and I always wanted to have my own firm. But honestly, I don't think if I didn't get fired, I don't think I would have started my own firm.
Yeah, it's
just
amazing
taking
how
that leap.
certain things will push you to making that decision. And it's a very, very important thing that I realized in my career, also working at a firm, although it was a public accounting firm, wasn't a law firm, but I think we had similar things where the same partnership structure existed, and you're looking at kind of like the time horizon in those places and in the industry, and I was looking at this as, well, if you start to bring in new business, you're not the main partner, and that goes to the partner's book of business, which is fine. And they have a bad year the following year, you will still, your job is not secure. In other words, like you don't control your own destiny at that point.
Yeah.
And that was very 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 eye opening when I came to the US and started working in restructuring and kind of the M&A world and seeing different kind of transactions transpire. And one of the main things that we did in these large companies, I mean, these were Fortune 50 companies, billion, trillion dollars worth of assets, and, everything out in the world was just a number on a spreadsheet. And, to see them just cut entire departments, to save P&L or EBITDA for the next, shareholders meeting, it kind of opened my eyes to like, hey, nothing's secure here unless you're,
right.
Unless you're making it happen.
Well, and the other piece of that is no one is going to toot your horn for you. And that's another lesson that I learned, I think, along the way, was that if you're not your own best cheerleader, then no one, it's such a harsh world out there. If you're not tooting your own success and working for yourself, it's no one's going to give it to you.
Yeah.
Tell the folks how you started Dreamstone, because I think that's an interesting story.
Yeah. So with Dreamstone, we, it all started with a goal. There's always a goal. Well, really,
That's awesome.
I had just started dating my now wife, and I had been on the road for about 4 years in this consulting firm and just traveling to different cities in this management consulting role. And so living out of a suitcase, living in corporate housing, corporate apartments, hotels across the country, and all this kinds of stuff. And it's exciting when you're single and you're in your 20s, late 20s. It's fun. You start to get into your 30s and you start thinking about life, right? It's almost like that quarter life crisis and the midlife crisis, and and I I had gone through that process where where I started to evaluate what's important to life, and obviously think about the next step, which is getting married, having kids, and all of those good things. But I thought, I had a motorcycle at the time, and I'd love to ride motorcycles because it was something my dad never wanted me to do, and I was just like, I'll show you. And I learned how to ride motorcycles, against my dad's will, essentially, back home, and it was something. As soon as I had the means to do, I bought myself a motorcycle here in the US, and I used to enjoy just exploring, and it was kind of like one of those good like releases where you just have you're working a busy day, and you just get on your bike and you go. I used to go up into like the Carolinas, into the mountains, and just be hyper focused on not dying. And that was the kind of cool thing that kind of made me let go of like all the stress and whatever, and just be focused on one thing and enjoying nature and being outside. And I got to my fast forward a few years, and I was engaged, and I think we were married, and then I ended up having to sell the motorcycle, and I wanted to buy myself a convertible Mercedes-Benz AMG SL a Mercedes. I'll never forget it because I looked at like thousands of these things and I was like, this is going to be my replacement to my motorcycle. And I really had all the modifications and all the things that I wanted to do to this car, and I ended up speaking to her about it. She was like, well, why don't we buy an investment property, and instead of that, because we were still kind of in transition, like we didn't know where we wanted to live, or moving back to Miami or Tampa or wherever. And so we ended up I started researching this because in South Africa, you have your house and your holiday house, your vacation home, and that's kind of real estate for the most part, unless you're like in construction or that kind of thing, because we don't have the same ability to acquire. You can, but it's very expensive. Acquire an entire multifamily building. You can buy. Everything's condos, so there's individual titles for each unit, and it hasn't catched on like it has here in the U.S., where you can buy the entire building, entire complex. And so we ended up, I ended up researching and listening to podcasts, getting mentors, getting in front of different people, understanding what, real estate was. And met someone that had 5 homes, and I was like, you have 5 homes? Like, wow, that's crazy. He's like, well, it pays his, some of his monthly costs, and I thought this was fascinating, and I looked at it, looked at the risks, and I was like, well, maybe multifamily is going to be better. And everybody always talks about moving from single family to multifamily. I'm here to say it doesn't matter. We hold single family, we hold multifamily. I think it's just having an asset that generates cash flow is the key. And how you get there is up to you. Don't put the pressure on yourself and of trying to, scale too fast. And we started with a duplex in Tampa and a 7-unit in Tampa, and then I found my business partner who we met through a real estate group, which just shows you the importance of being part of a community, and even if it costs you money to join that, it's worth every cent, because you're 100%. Going to develop those relationships, those have those mentors that can help you get through those roadblocks so much quicker than just you stumbling and figuring it out. Someone's been there already. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but it's great to have that guidance. And so I found my business partner, and we got up to about 3,000 units in the last 6 years, and sold to about 2,200 of those. We're down to about 800 units now, and working on our new path, which is development.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so cliche. You hear it in groups, and you see it online. Probably hear it in podcasts, but they say your net work is your net worth. It's so cheesy. Right, but it's so true, because real estate is a team sport. That's another cliche that you hear, but again, also very true. You need to have, your broker contacts, your attorney contacts, your lender contacts, your, investor contacts, especially in the space that we play in, in multifamily and other areas. You can't take those big deals down by yourself. It's just going to be too difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of like what you do, Todd, and with the syndication model, and helping us operators put that together in a legal way. You want to make sure it's 100% legal.
Right. You're playing with fire there, because you're dealing with SEC regulations and whatnot.
SEC regs, and so you want to make sure you have a Todd Robinson in your corner that's getting everything ready, and making sure that you've crossed all your T's and dotted your I's, and it protects not only the investor but also protects you, and it ingrains your responsibility as an operator, or even as an investor, making sure that all the legal documents are there. It's incredible. It's incredible to see how you can take down a big deal with your team, right? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to do the whole thing by yourself, and that's kind of the beauty in multifamily. It's like that community of folks that get together and take these large deals down and diversify the risk amongst each other, right? So everyone's taking up the risk. We share the risk, we share the reward on the backside.
Yeah. What's some adversity you think you've gone through as you think about your path and where you are now?
Yeah, I think just still have the scars. The Great Resignation was something that I had never...
The Great Resignation?
The Great Resignation was something that I had to face.
What is that? Is that millennials moving to the gig economy?
It's part of it. I think back in 22, and I'm sure you experienced some of this, but in 22, 21, when labor just shot up in costs, and so people were so much more expensive to hire. And they would just quite quit, right? So you had people not being productive, like willing to, if they don't get that raise that they are looking for, they'll just sit and do nothing. And I had that going on at one of my companies, and We've also acquired a few companies over the years and tried to, scale and grow, which that we have. And now it's a matter of, or back in with the Great Resignation is something that I had to overcome is like how to manage people that are unmotivated and not unmotivated, but it's more of a matter of like they're just not happy with life. So I think COVID kind of changed people's perspective on what is my purpose.
Right.
What is I think a lot of people got to that point, right? So, for me it was trying to find and align people's self vision with what they're doing in their day to day. Is very challenging. It's very challenging as a business owner.
Yeah, that's interesting. How do you? It's almost like trying to find that out in the interview process, and it's so hard. Even legally, you can't ask certain questions, right? But how do you find the right employees, the right partners that align with your values and vision, but also that align with your values and vision, but they are also going to stick around. That.
Yeah.
These days, people. I mean, I review resumes all the time for the law firm, and it's. Like I was talking to someone yesterday, and she's had 7 jobs in 10 years. And, there's an excuse for each reason why she left, and perhaps none of it's her own fault, but you still kind of, that's normal. I mean, no one...
It has changed, right? It used to be like, lifers, like people...
I know, lifers. Yeah, back
years.
in the... Yeah, I mean, even, 50s, 60s, 70s, that was, you get a job, you hold it for 30 years, and that's, you build the American dream.
Yeah.
I've
got and we'll bring on some guests onto the podcast here in the future, but I just have some that are like still have their first employee with them. They still have their first, and it's like a 40-year-old company. So
what's the secret sauce there, right?
I mean, it's just incredible people that you take care of, and
that's it. Yeah, it's valuing the and as employers, you can't just be all about the bottom line.
Well, and I think to that point, if you've started a company and brought it in, it's a little bit different than what we've done. We've acquired companies, so from the mergers and acquisitions world, I now get it why some companies just sunset those positions because you hear this constantly. That's not how we used to do it. This is not how we used to do it. We didn't do it this way, and so that becomes like, well, we're not that company anymore. We're going to the new, like this is the new vision. This is the new modus operandi, right? Like this is our new MO, and so it's a balance. As an owner, as a CEO, you're always going to have to make sure that's being done, and if you are fortunate enough to have an HR function, then maybe that'll help with weeding out some of those issues. How we've gotten around it now is we've put a lot of time into personality testing, and so we use Myers-Briggs scores and just to get a little bit more insight into those folks that we are bringing into the organization to see if they're even a cultural fit, just based on their personality scores.
Interesting. Yeah. So then you won't make an offer to some employees that don't have that personality fit that you're looking for.
Not anymore.
Right.
There were times where and this is a lesson I've learned, and I'm taking ownership as a man and as a leader. I've hired people because I had a gap, right? So somebody left because they had a better opportunity, and this was the Great Resignation, where someone was like, "Hey, I need a 40% raise," and I'm like, "What?" That's like you're not doing 40% more work. You're going to be doing the same level of work, and so that's very tough for us small businesses in this marketplace to be as attractive as a large public company that has tons of cash reserves to absorb some of those higher employee costs.
Yeah. What I've struggled with as an employer and a business owner, is not getting too attached to my employees. I guess I have a tendency to sort of invest so much into them and just think these guys are going to be with me forever, right? And even, paralegals or even I mean, I've had associates that I have just poured into training and mentoring, and they learn everything they can learn, and then they leave. And I just get so heartbroken. I get I really take it personally. And I've had to really reframe my thinking about that and just, realize everyone's replaceable. No one is the golden superstar that's not replaceable. And just try to not be, I think that's a personality of mine that I think attracts people to working for me. But then it also is like a double-edged sword, because I end up getting hurt when they leave, and I take it personally. But it's like, and I have a partner that says, no one's going to leave for $10,000. They'll leave for $50,000, but they're not going to leave for $10,000 unless they don't feel valued and taken care of. But just that, how to not take it personally has been a struggle for me.
Yeah. And do you think that's, maybe is that something to do with like your childhood, or like what?
No, I think that.
Like, do you feel like you've invested in a lot of like people over the years, and you've just seen the reward in that, and you just got
I think it's like, why, like what, I don't know if it's like a what's wrong with me kind of thing, like why are you leaving me, or if it's like, it's almost like a how dare you kind of thing, like I've done so much for you that you owe it to me to stay and be loyal and work at my right. But that's not reasonable, I think, because people act in their own self-interest. I mean, that's, we talked about this on the way home from seeing those properties yesterday, how, and this kind of gets into a political discussion, but like people are generally self-interested, and they're not going to make decisions based on what's best for someone else. They're going to make decisions based on what's best for them, right?
Absolutely. And we I think that's a fascinating data point there, Todd. I think from my perspective, I think you're always going to have people that are going to move through the ranks. I think as owners, we need to make sure that there are challenging environments for those employees that want to grow, and then you've always got those employees that are just going to be have that fire in their belly that want to go out and go do something for themselves, right? They see it in you, they see it in others, and I get it. I mean, like it's I think that's like the ultimate flattery to you, right? Like that you've given them the ability to go back themselves, and
that's a good way to look at it. The last guy that left me and did that, I was very pissed.
Yeah,
I was very upset.
I can see that. Yeah,
but that's interesting. So what do you make of this new political landscape that we have now with Mr. Trump back in the office?
Yeah, I think whether you're left or right, pink, purple, blue, it doesn't really matter. I think what we need to get back to is unity and working together to make America a fantastic place. I think for the last 3 years we've kind of been on kind of eggshells. I don't know if you felt that. I felt like everything was kind of teetering. We don't know what to expect. We don't know what to do. I think with some firm leadership in the White House, and again, I don't think that, coming from another country, I don't think that the president of the country makes all the everything involved, kind of changes everything. I think the president sets a tone and sets a kind of the vibe for the country, if you will. And I think we've been afraid to discuss and debate. I think in the last couple of years, and we spoke about this in the car yesterday. I think it's good to have some healthy debate. It's good to have, different points of views. But what we shouldn't be doing is, hey, you're wrong, blah blah blah. Like that's not even scientific, right? You got to have the two sides of the coin, and then as a rational human being, stay in the middle. Like, okay, well, I see that point, I see this point, and maybe this is the path forward, because nothing is finite. It's not definite. There could be, I always take it back to battles, right? In a war, someone on the opposing side, they're fighting for something, and on our side, we're fighting for something. We both think we're right, but it could be completely wrong. Like it could completely bogus. So
Yeah.
I think we as leaders of our community, we need to be in the middle, focused on the things that moves the needle for our community, and not be so distracted with nonsense. I feel like we've been distracted with nonsense for a long time. So I think I'm excited to see just some change and some improvement in our economy. I think we're probably going to see a little bit of a slump, and then the pump will come. I think the world will open up again.
Let's hope so. There is. You mentioned this yesterday, and I was thought about it more and more. There is a little bit of a buzz, I'd say, in the air. Just to change. Change of the guard. A fresh perspective. Although I'll tell you, my biggest beef with and with the president now, president-elect, is just the morality. And I've had this conversation with people. Can you separate the morality from the man? And it's almost like you can take it even to like sports icons, right? Like Floyd Mayweather. He beats his wives. So do you like Floyd Mayweather
was
because
he married?
Or I don't know, he beats women. I don't know. Maybe it's his girlfriends. But do you respect Floyd Mayweather as a boxer, even though despite doing this, or do you say to yourself, you know what, he beats women, I don't like him for that reason. And I kind of feel the same way about Trump. Sure, he's done a lot in business, but he is on record committing crimes, raping women, cheating, bankruptcy, cheating the little man. That's the biggest thing for me. Like, he has cheated the little man out of. He used to not rent apartments to black people in New York, because he didn't want to rent apartments to black people in New York but apparently the whole country has said, we don't care. We just don't care about those issues.
Yeah, look.
So I don't know. Can you separate the morality from the man at all?
Again, we're humans, right? We're not perfect. If they were perfect people, we would not be having these discussions.
Fair enough.
And
but the president,
take it back to the Bible. You've got. I always try to think like what would be Christ-like. We have to forgive and turn the other cheek and just go, because focusing on the past. And yes, I agree. Those things are terrible, right? Those things are not. I don't condone any of those things, but at the same time, like, we need to move forward as a country. We need to move forward as a people. And I don't think there is a right answer there, Todd. I don't think I think people can have their opinion. I think have your opinion and vote your way, right? Like, I think.
Well, that's the country has spoken. Yeah, 100%. I mean, the country has spoken. They don't care. He won the popular vote. He won the electoral college. They don't care about his transgressions. And I just
even when we talk about transgressions and stuff, like, we also get fed media, and that's why I'm excited to be here with you, because this is like our perspective. It's not some news conglomerate that's put stuff together because of their agenda and their bias. This is just us that are actually in the day-to-day of America, working in business, working in our communities, and I'd love to bring that story out to the world, because I think a lot of our media, legacy media, is, and I'm paraphrasing the president, is fake news. There are a lot of things that have been manipulated over time. And it's all of this to make them relevant and keep us terrified and keep us scared and whatever. But the truth is, we just need change. We need to have a new hope. And I think America runs on small businesses. We had this discussion yesterday where we were talking about the mom and pop stores, like, crushing those little folks. Like, it hurts our economy. It makes the large businesses stronger. Which, yes, if you're a wealthy person with a great stock portfolio, buying Facebook and all of the stuff in Meta and all that. Yeah, it's great. But I think what Donald Trump represents, which is crazy if you've read his books and stuff, he's representing the everyday businessman that, it's like, holy shit, I need this to cost less so I can do more business.
Talk about fake news.
Which I mean, yeah. Let's see if that actually plays out, because, and what I'm referring to is like lower taxes, for businesses, and a good thing to talk about is structure, right? Todd is a corporate attorney, so guys, like, having that stuff done properly is super important. Like, I can't even stress that enough. LLCs.
No one cares about their operating agreements until something goes wrong, right?
Until it goes wrong. So don't get caught, caught off guard. Like, make sure you're consulting with appropriate attorneys, and it's so important. Like, if you're a C corp versus a LLC, LLCs are great for properties, and keep your properties in LLCs, but keep a C corp or S corp, pay that taxes and leave it. Pay the tax on that income that comes in, and then you never have to deal with it again. But people keep rolling these taxes through, and then it comes into your personal 1040s, and so there's a strategy. If taxes are going to go down to 15, then
that's corporate tax, right?
That. Corporate tax, yeah. So
right,
if you structure your...
That wouldn't apply to an LLC, though, I guess. An LLC taxes an S corp, it would apply, right?
LLC is a pass-through entity, so it flows up to the the natural person is. But if it flows to an S corp or something like that, then you just pay the taxes, and then it's done. It doesn't pass through there. And they are. I mean, speak to your CPAs. No financial advice.
Disclaimer. Right.
Yes. But there are ways to just get that corporate structure set up, and then obviously there's advanced stuff, right? And we'll bring on people in the future with trusts and all these different types of things that
asset really protection strategies. Yeah, for sure. If you get wealthier, you're going to want to have those asset protection strategies in place. Which kind of leads me talking about generational wealth and building generational wealth. I mean, obviously through real estate investing, one of the best ways to do it. But this is kind of a personal question, and I think we've committed to be honest and vulnerable here on this podcast as well. But, like, what do you think? What are you doing at home, Vehano, to make sure your family is built to last?
Yeah, I think there's nothing more important than your family unit, right? I think you cannot. We talk about the fire in the belly. Imagine getting punched in the belly consistently because your family unit's being destroyed, right? Like, that's what's happened to many Americans. I've just the family unit, and maybe more in the disenfranchised community where they've been affected by this the most, where African American, Latino populations are where we see single households, single mothers and stuff like that. But I've 100% believe in having that family unit is kind of the key to success, and your key to having a prosperous life. Because when your family's like in my family personally, it's number one, right? So making sure that my kids are taken care of, making sure my wife is taken care of. Like, one thing we do, is we pray every evening, like taking it back to like the basics. Without God, it's God first and then your family. God
100%.
First and then the family and then you and then your business, right? So with God at the helm, you cannot be steered wrong.
Right.
And so things we do at home, I teach I have young kids, so I teach them to pray every night, and make that part of their routine so they know everything is not given.
They know where it all comes from.
We're just stewards of this temporarily, and so you want to be a good steward of what God's blessings are. And with my wife, we do a weekly kind of a weekly same page meeting
Like a check-in, yeah. State of the
Yeah,
union,
so it's
state of the marriage.
state of,
That's good. Yeah,
state of
that's literally
happiness,
what.
right?
Yeah, there's marriage therapists out there that teach that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been, it's been hard at first, but once you
Mm.
start doing that on a weekly basis, you kind of everything's kind of on the same page. Whether it's like, things you need to improve on, or things that you're doing good and well, and so, I think that's been something that we do, Todd, at home. That's been impactful and been really good.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with all those points. One thing that I would add that I work on at home, actually two things. One is being present, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
just being physically there is not enough. And that is something that a lot of men I think struggle with. Being physically there is not enough. You need to be present at home with your wife, with your children, and what that means for me is put the phone away, right? Leave the work at the door. As soon as you cross that threshold, you're home. Be home 100%. And it's a struggle for me, especially as entrepreneurs, business owners. It's hard for me to turn it off, to not respond to emails at 11 o'clock at night, when I should be sitting with my wife, or not worrying about content at 7:30 p.m. when I'm, supposed to be eating dinner. So that's a struggle. I mean, being present, but you'd be amazed at how much just a little bit of difference it makes. I mean, a little bit of just, hey, put your phone away for 2 hours a night, 3 hours a night. Like, how easy is that? And the other thing is,
And that's the blessing, right? Having that time with him. That's what it's all about.
and you know what? It goes so fast. I read a stat once, and it was like, the majority of the time spent with your kids is their adulthood. They're just after they're over 5, like, it's a completely different ball game. The other thing I was going to mention, just in sort of, built to last from a family perspective, how are you building your family to last is, and I've learned this, I think, the hard way, just through my own personal story, is that, respect in a marriage is really almost more important than love. I would say, from a man's perspective, a man needs respect more than they need love. And I didn't really learn that until, recently, because, a woman needs love. Almost more than respect. Obviously, you have to have both, but a man definitely needs respect more than love. And so, establishing those boundaries.
How do you do that as a man and as an entrepreneur? I think that's useful information.
For sure.
Like, how do you make sure that's happening in a relationship?
Yeah, and I think personally, it's about, being mindful of your tongue, right? Being mindful of how you interact. Always, we're not we're not here to give marriage advice, but again,
Hey, I think this is all part of it, right?
this is all part of built to last. These are things that again flow into our personal and our business life, because if like Vehano said, if things aren't right at home, forget about the rest of the world, forget about the rest of your business.
Upside down, everything's
Yeah, but for us, it's we when we do disagree, it's disagreeing respectfully. It's not crossing those boundaries, having those boundaries, and being able to bring it back. And also having, like you said, having God in the center of the relationship.
Yeah.
There's this great meme of like an A-frame, God being at the top. The closer the people are to God, the closer they are to each other. Mm-hmm. So that's another kind of visual. But yeah, so I would think, that respect, I think, also flows into your professional life, respecting your employees, respecting your partners. If you've got a partner in a business, don't go make rogue decisions without that partner's consent or input. That's going to breach their trust, and they're going to feel betrayed, and it's going to, just like at home, it's going to crumble your foundation.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really good advice. I think, going back to like being a man and a leader of your household, your duty is to, number one, obey God and His commandments, and then provide for your wife. And once you display, in my opinion, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Once you're in that masculine space where you're making the decisions. Obviously, you're going to consult with your wife. You're not going to do these things by yourself. But hey, these are the things that I'm in charge of, and these are the things you're in charge of. And you can kind of really clearly define those roles and be comfortable in those. I think that helps to establish that respect.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Where, your spouse or girlfriend or significant other doesn't, get over that boundary. And once you start, and I think that's for me, and in the difficult times I've been, when I've let go of that responsibility, and your partner starts to, overstep and they start to make those decisions. I think that's a slippery slope to something you don't want, and so that's why I love this weekly check-in.
Yeah, no, the state of the marriage, state of the family, that's huge, and I couldn't agree more. And honestly, that I, had that problem in a previous relationship where the roles and responsibilities of each partner in the relationship were not clearly defined, or were contested all the time, and who's and as men, we are built to provide. We're built to protect. That is our job. That is honestly what all the scriptures say. All the monotheistic world religions, they have, definitions of what the role of a man and a woman is in a relationship, because that's how God made us, right? I mean, God didn't make men to be subservient, followers, right? He made men to be leaders of family first, and then not to disparage women or say women can't be leaders also.
I mean, we can be frank with that. I think you don't want women I don't want women fighting in the military and dying unnecessarily.
Which our new Secretary of Defense takes that position as well.
So nothing against women that want to be there. If that's you, boo boo, go do that. But from my perspective, and I think you wanna. I think a woman is really a woman should be in her feminine. She's a beautiful butterfly that loving and caring. And if a woman has to step into her masculine, then that means there's no man in her life creating that stability and support and that environment for that woman to be in her feminine. And when you look at these successful marriages and relationships, you're just like, wow. I have a friend that, hopefully I can get on this podcast here in the future, but his wife is she looks like she comes out of a, Coco Chanel advert. She's so floaty and lovely and feminine and just really, really, really amazing. And I think that's because her husband gives her that space to be feminine, and I think that's our goal as men, to be those providers and provide those things.
And those lessons, again, I mean, when you're talking about roles and responsibilities, those are lessons for business as well, because if you have a partnership, and you've got roles in your partnership, you can't let down your other partners, just like you can't let down your wife at home by failing to lead. If your job is to be the managing partner of a firm, or to I know you and Nick have a really good dichotomy where, Nick, as your partner, is sort of like, the hands-on operational guy, and you're sort of the visionary, go out and get it and build it guy. And that's such a good relationship and dichotomy between you two.
And that's really how you scale and grow, right? Is doing the things that you're good at, not the things that draw you down that you're not good at. Obviously, understanding that there's a time and a place for everything, but we're a firm believer in EOS and business systems like that, where you have a visionary and an integrator, or in the old guard, it's a CEO and a COO. Right. No successful company exists without an amazing COO and just somebody that's operationally strong, that just wants to execute every day, and that's how they get fulfilled in life. Having those lieutenants are amazing. And when they are in flow, then man, it's it's like you can't be stopped, and that's, you know, the best word of advice is finding partners that are, you know, good at the things you're not good at.
100%.
That really helps. That really help. Well, at least it helps in the greater scheme of things to move the needle forward.
Right. Well, yeah, I love it, and I love how, you know, we can tie all this into family, and we can tie all this into our community and into our companies, and you know, that's kind of the purpose of why we wanted to get together and create just this conversation of everyday, you know, entrepreneurs and business guys who are dealing with a lot of the same stuff everyone else is dealing with at home and in their community and in their business. So we got about 5 or 6 minutes left here. You know, I think it's important for our audience to know that, you know, we're going to try to do these weekly. And a lot of times, Vehano and I are going to just be talking and kind of giving you our insight about the market and, you know, insights that we can provide. But then we're going to bring on guests as well. And those guests can be a wide variety of people that, you know, kind of follow our vision of what does it take to build something to last, you know, because I think that's everyone's goal.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we want to bring those folks on that can, you know, add those tools to your toolbox and just, you know, give you exposure to some of the incredible people that are doing great things in our country. So, yeah, I think, Todd, is there a way that people can follow you and kind of get updates of when the next
podcast is? Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna, you know, my primary platform is through Instagram, so I'm at Syndication Expert, because I mentioned earlier I kind of I coach real estate investors on how to grow and scale their real estate portfolio using other people's money, and it's Syndication Expert, and also you know, through the law firm. But whenever we post this, we'll put that in. And Vehano, tell the folks how they can reach you as well.
Yeah. So my Instagram is I am Vehano Joseph, and the link will be in the description below. Feel free to DM me. We also have a platform where people can meet weekly and have their bottlenecks cleared, and whether it be in buying your first property or scaling past 10, past 20, past 30, because we've done that now over the years. And join us and go on the journey together, because, you know, community, you know, is what we're trying to build, and that's the important thing that we as leaders have to do, is get the right people together and make things happen. I think that's what we're excited about.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I think we'll call it for today. Be on the lookout for the next episode. When it drops, we'll let everyone know. I'm Todd Robinson.
And I'm Vehano. See you later.
See you later.